tragic story of three genius kids who hacked tech giants and stole 100 million. Three brilliant minds. One dangerous hack. $100 million stolen. What begins as a genius-level heist soon spirals into a tragic downfall they couldn't escape. From a viral Twitter hack to a game-changing crypto heist, these young prodigies rewrote the rules of the digital world, only to lose everything in a heartbeat. Their hunger for power and fortune led them down a dark path, but their genius couldn't save them from the devastating consequences that followed. They thought they could control the digital world. In the end, it controlled them, destroying their lives and futures forever. Stay tuned to witness the heartbreaking rise and tragic fall of these teenage geniuses who gambled everything and lost it all. It all began with a single message on July 15, 2020. This message was shared on Elon Musk's profile. "Send me $1,000 worth of Bitcoin and I will give it back to you for $2,000. This proposal is valid for 30 minutes only." Below the message, there was the Bitcoin wallet number. The message seems like a fraud, but it was shared on Elon Musk's official and verified profile. The same message was shared on other famous profiles like Apple, Uber, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kanye West, and other large profiles that have millions of followers. Later, when it was revealed that this was the largest hacking operation in Twitter history, the company halted the tweeting feature for all the prominent verified profiles until they figured out what exactly was occurring. What was not anticipated was that the individual accountable for the hack was actually a 17-year-old youth. When they looked into his history, they found that he was a con artist and an experienced hacker who had been active in the field since he was 13 years old and stole money and Bitcoin worth millions of dollars. He was also involved in drug trafficking and homicide crimes. How did a teenager manage to accomplish all of this? And how did he manage to hack one of the largest platforms? Keep watching to discover. He used to attend a school named Cather High School. At that time, Graham used to draw the attention of his peers in school due to his affluent appearance. He wore clothes, watches, and accessories that were worth thousands of dollars. So where does a teenager like him acquire all this money? And if he came from a wealthy family, why did he attend a public school? The wealth that appeared around him encouraged many of his peers to attempt getting closer to him and becoming his friends, which he exploited and asked them to do his assignments, assist him in cheating on tests, and similar things. In return, he used to invite them for meals and buy them what they required. It was a mutually beneficial relationship, and no one would ask, where does he obtain the money from? He also doesn't like to discuss this. Even if someone tries to bring it up, he will instantly change the topic. Many around him realized that his family situation was average or below average. So where could a teenager obtain all this money? This began when he was 13, when his parents divorced, and his father abandoned them and relocated elsewhere. Graham lived with his mother, who barely managed to support him. She was always occupied with work, so he turned to the world of the internet and gaming and started doing what he wanted without restraint. Graham used to spend a lot of time on Minecraft. As you know, Minecraft is a game with numerous servers. Each group can create their own server, play together, and enjoy all the activities they can do in the game, like constructing homes, gathering resources, and many other activities. Simultaneously, they can get to know each other and form friendships. Just like in any other environment, there's a high chance of encountering bad individuals who attempt to exploit and steal from others. In Minecraft, Graham entered the realm of deception. Online, Graham went by the name Open. He had an account on Twitter and a YouTube channel with the same name. He had followers who adored him, particularly because he used to portray himself as a kind individual in his videos. Using his seemingly charming persona, Graham would entice his followers and set them up, selling them items in the game. After transferring money, he wouldn't deliver the items purchased. He also sold capes for Minecraft characters that were worth hundreds of dollars and would disappear immediately after receiving the payment, taking advantage of his followers' trust. Graham used to earn a lot of money from this scam during his teenage years. He used to boast about his actions to the extent that his negative reputation began to spread among his followers and community. Some YouTubers started uploading videos to alert people about him. Example, one YouTuber posted a video in which he exposed Open, stating that he is a fraudster, and he shared stories of the followers who were deceived by Open. Because of this YouTuber's video and many others, Graham was banned from numerous Minecraft servers. But Open sought revenge on this YouTuber. Graham hacked the YouTuber. He breached his email, his YouTube channel, and all his profiles. We don't know if Graham hacked the YouTuber independently or hired a hacker, but it's likely he employed a hacker since Graham wasn't skilled enough at that time in hacking, yet he had money from scam activities. Graham took his revenge on that YouTuber and hacked all his profiles. He even used them to deceive his followers. By impersonating him on social media, he effectively tarnished his reputation. Graham not only deceived his followers or Minecraft users, he also conned designers, video editors, and programmers. He hired them, but after receiving the work he contracted them for, he didn't compensate them. In summary, the boy led the life of a fraudster since his teenage years. This was merely the beginning. His expertise in the virtual realm would gradually expand to the real world, and he began to learn more effective methods of deception and fraud. His true start in the hacking world began on discussion boards in a website named OG Users. Remember this name? This site or board was like a market where individuals trade usernames for various websites. For example, if someone needs a unique name for use on Twitter, they can find it there. Despite this website advertising itself as a legitimate place, all those who sold usernames on it were actually hackers. They breached the accounts and sold them. Usernames on the site were expensive. Graham joined the site and started vending usernames. During that time, Graham shifted from being a deceiver to a hacker. The most common method he uses in hacking accounts is a technique called SIM exchange, which essentially means that the hacker seizes control of the SIM card of their target, and as most accounts are connected to a phone number for security, as the user can only access their account after entering the confirmation code received via a message. This is known as two-factor authentication. The hacker somehow contacts the telecom company, pretends to be their target, and gains access to the number, leaving the target unable to use it. This way, the hacker takes over the number and becomes the owner. Some may wonder, is it that easy? You call the telecom company, and it provides you with someone else's number. No, it's not that simple. The process is quite complex, but I briefly explained how it appears. Once the hacker takes over the number, they can access all their target's accounts, including email, bank accounts, and even Bitcoin wallets. So how did the teenager, Graham, succeed in obtaining someone else's number? This can occur in various ways. To clarify, the hacker can pretend to be another telecom company employee and fool a real employee. For instance, they can call another branch of a telecom company and pose as an employee from a different branch of the same company. The hacker introduces themselves to the employee, claiming to have received a technical issue report, and provides the report number to appear credible. Everything is fake, though. The employee will then deny having made any report. Afterwards, the hacker sends them a link to a website resembling the real company website and asks them to log in with their company account to review the report. When the employee enters their username and password, they see a page that looks genuine, stating that the issue has been resolved. The hacker thanks them and assures them that everything is fine, and the employee hangs up without realizing the hacker has taken over their accounts, and they can then switch the target's number to their SIM from the company system. Afterward, the target realizes their SIM card is blocked. They cannot access their accounts, passwords are changed, and they cannot reset them as they have lost their phone number too. This is just one of many methods used by hackers. If it fails, they attempt with another employee or another company branch. This is more about social hacking than technical hacking. The hacker aims to deceive people rather than finding software vulnerabilities. Initially, Graham used this tactic to acquire Twitter accounts with special names and sell them on OG Users. His goal was to take over Twitter accounts, but he soon realized that by obtaining someone else's phone number, he could access their email. And if he gained access to their email, where the hacker manages to get someone's phone number, access their Bitcoin wallet, and steal all their funds. The wallet owner is helpless as Bitcoin transactions cannot be traced. This is why we hear a lot about thefts of this kind worth millions, amounts that not even bank robbers could obtain. It would be simpler if the thief could access a Bitcoin wallet. Graham began his journey at the age of 15. He initially started vending usernames on OG Users. Due to this site, he connected with numerous hackers who were experts in this method and began learning from them. They even established a small group. Many of them flaunted their wealth by showcasing their purchases on social media. Expensive cars, luxury watches, clothing, and shoes valued at thousands of dollars. Initially, Graham made thousands of dollars from this endeavor. Later on, he started earning hundreds of thousands, gradually progressing to millions. Consequently, he became more cautious with his actions. He frequented Twitter, scouted cryptocurrency platform accounts, and sought out potential targets among the followers. Individuals who seemed to possess substantial Bitcoin and cryptocurrency fortunes. Most of these individuals exhibited their wealth on social media and disclosed their personal details, making them vulnerable to hackers. Upon identifying a potential target, Graham executed a procedure known as doxing, which entails exposing personal information about someone online, including their real identity, address, workplace, phone number, email, and other details. This information was obtained from websites that trade personal data submitted by users to various platforms. This method did not necessitate expertise. Many ordinary individuals could exploit it, often for malicious purposes, like falsely reporting someone to the authorities and causing unwarranted disruptions. However, Graham had a different objective. He used this data to carry out the card switching operation mentioned earlier. One of Graham's victims was a man named Greg Bennett, an investor with diverse investments, including Bitcoin. On April 15, 2019, while Greg was at work in his office with his phone on the desk, the network signal suddenly vanished. Perplexed by this occurrence in a modern urban area renowned for its robust network coverage, he attempted to access his emails but faced repeated login failures. Shortly after, his phone powered off, leaving him in a state of shock. When he tried to check his Bitcoin accounts, stored across 3 platforms, he found himself locked out of all of them. Realizing he had been hacked, he felt powerless. Recalling an app that consolidated his Bitcoin data, he quickly accessed it to monitor the transactions. To his dismay, he observed Bitcoin being siphoned from his account to another. Investigations later revealed that Graham was the perpetrator behind the hack, making away with a substantial sum of $1 million in Bitcoin. This wasn't the entirety of Greg's holdings. Graham withdrew as much as possible, given the daily transfer limits imposed by the platforms. Subsequently, Greg visited the telecom provider on the same day, reclaiming his phone number to promptly secure his Bitcoin accounts. Regrettably, the funds Graham had withdrawn could not be recovered, as they had been moved to other accounts. As previously mentioned, Bitcoin transactions remain untraceable. Nonetheless, Graham's greed would soon become apparent. He aimed to seize the remaining Bitcoin in Greg's wallet that he couldn't access due to the daily withdrawal restrictions. Graham regained access to one of Greg's emails and contacted him using the same email. He dispatched a menacing message demanding, "Transfer 50 Bitcoins to recover your accounts and avoid harassment." At that time, 50 Bitcoins equated to $250,000. They even threatened his close ones. To resolve matters smoothly, he was coerced to surrender the remaining Bitcoin. What audacity! Despite pilfering $1 million, they demanded more. Ironically, the hackers exploited Greg's email to communicate amongst themselves. Evidently, Graham colluded with 2 other hackers in this scheme, but true to form, he double-crossed them, withholding their share of the spoils. Unable to reach him, the hackers resorted to using Greg's email to contact Graham. In a communication, they stipulated, either surrender our 66% or face legal repercussions. They menaced to expose and report him to law enforcement. This behavior was no surprise to Graham, who had engaged in deceitful practices since childhood, even during his Minecraft days. Graham not only ventured into fraud and hacking, but also delved into the realm of narcotics. He dabbled in marijuana and various illicit pills, partaking in their consumption too. He associated with unsavory characters in the drug world. In late 2019, a tragic incident unfolded involving Graham and a fatal shooting of one of his companions. Essentially, Graham and 2 peers of his age visited a drug dealer's residence armed with a firearm. The motive for the visit remained undisclosed. However, a dispute erupted, possibly over a debt or money. Graham remained in the car while his companions entered the dealer's home, where a fatal shooting occurred. Hearing the gunfire, Graham promptly fled the scene in the vehicle. Subsequently, law enforcement arrived to investigate the incident. Interrogating the injured individual led them to Graham. During questioning, Graham confirmed his presence, but claimed ignorance of his companion's intentions. Despite discrepancies between Graham's account and the evidence, authorities could only establish his presence in the car during the incident, insufficient for conviction. Following the episode, Graham's high school barred him and his associates from campus. This marked the conclusion of Graham's academic journey. He vacated his mother's residence and procured his own apartment. Nevertheless, authorities monitored him closely, persisting in their scrutiny. Compounding matters, Graham flaunted his wealth on social media, engaging in a show of opulence with other hackers and scammers. They paraded their cars, watches, travels, and revelries, inviting scrutiny from law enforcement. Investigators sensed ambiguity during their probe into Graham's affairs. Therefore, the district attorney's office assumed control of the inquiry. Subsequent to amassing substantial evidence against him, they secured a search warrant for his residence, forcibly entered, and apprehended him. Detectives successfully seized 400 bitcoins, valued at nearly $4 million at that time. Graham's earnings from hacking far exceeded expectations. Despite confiscating $4 million, the investigators initially believed he had only embezzled $1 million, the sum they were certain of. The detectives suspected the remaining $3 million had also been misappropriated, yet proving this was unattainable due to the untraceable nature of Bitcoin transactions. The case was intricate and protracted, enduring for 8 months. Eventually, the district attorney's office brokered a deal with Graham. They proposed to relinquish $1 million of the confiscated funds and return the remaining $3 million in exchange for immunity from prosecution. Graham promptly accepted the offer, absconding with $3 million, widely known to be ill-gotten gains. The case's complexity stemmed from Graham's status as a minor, being under 18 years old. Under U.S. law, hacking and scamming constitute federal offenses. Minors are exempt from prosecution for federal crimes, sparing Graham from imprisonment despite his $3 million windfall. Would you anticipate Graham to repent and desist from hacking and scamming after narrowly evading incarceration? Unlikely. On the contrary, taking advantage of his minor status and immunity from prosecution, Graham swiftly resumed his illicit activities. Shortly after his release and the favorable deal, Graham, alongside a younger accomplice, outlined a new scheme. This accomplice, more adept at hacking than Graham, remains unnamed and shielded due to their status as a minor. Collaborating with this prodigious adolescent, Graham orchestrated a Twitter hacking endeavor in 2020, a year overshadowed by a global pandemic. In response, numerous corporations, including Twitter, transitioned to remote work protocols, requiring employees to engage with company systems using personal devices from home. Exploiting this scenario, Graham and his partner meticulously compiled a roster of Twitter employees, leveraging this information, particularly their phone numbers, to impersonate technical support personnel from Twitter. They contacted employees under the guise of troubleshooting issues within their accounts. Assured and persuasive, the duo instructed employees to input data on a fabricated yet convincing portal resembling the company's actual website. Unbeknownst to the employees, this data was transmitted directly to the hackers. Graham and his companion harvested login credentials, infiltrated employee accounts, and assessed their privileges. Not all Twitter staff possessed equivalent access levels. Specific employees held elevated permissions, permitting entry to any account for modification of credentials. Progressively infiltrating numerous accounts, they sought an employee with the authority to alter passwords and emails. Their quest culminated in accessing the account of a Twitter manager, endowed with comprehensive account control capabilities. They had finally acquired the tool enabling them to commandeer any Twitter account. Remarkably, this operation wasn't orchestrated by a foreign entity or seasoned hackers, but by 2 adolescents. Graham eventually opted for a plea deal after 7 months of courtroom sessions. This agreement stipulated a guilty plea in exchange for being tried as a minor, diverging from the initial intent to try him as an adult. In Florida, the Young Youth Offenders Program caps sentences at 6 years. Consequently, Graham received a 6-year prison term upon pleading guilty, with confinement in a juvenile detention facility. Ultimately, this outcome spared him from a more severe adult punishment. Meanwhile, across the globe, this is Malone Lam, 20 years old, Singaporean, and he's shot to infamy overnight for allegedly carrying out one of the largest crypto thefts from a single person in U.S. history. And then he went on a spending spree, dropping obscene amounts at nightclubs in Los Angeles, gifting handbags worth tens of thousands of dollars, and amassing a collection of more than 30 luxury cars. So what was he doing in America, and how did he pull it off? First, here's what we know about when Lam got to the U.S. He arrived in October 2023 on the U.S. Visa Waiver Program, which allows tourists to stay up to 90 days without a visa. Fast forward, and it's been more than a year, and he's clearly overstayed his welcome. Court documents also revealed that Lamb had no permanent residence while he was in the US, and he wasn't employed. So essentially, he had no legal status there. Nonetheless, he apparently toggled between LA and Miami, where he was eventually caught. Now let's look at the scam, one of several since at least August this year, that landed Lamb in trouble with the feds. Online, Lamb goes by the monikers Anne Hathaway and $. His partner in crime, Jean Serrano, calls himself Versace God and at Skid Star. They came up with a plan to scam someone in Washington, D.C. We'll call him the victim. They chose him because he was a high net worth investor from the early days of cryptocurrency. A lot of planning went into hoodwinking the victim. Prosecutors called it sophisticated social engineering. It's basically a fancy term for someone gaining the trust of another in order to extract sensitive information. Bermuda's operandi worked like this. The goal was to make the victim think that his Google account was being compromised. In the week leading up to the theft on August 18th, a third person was roped in to send him notifications. These were fake alerts of unauthorized Google account access. And the attempts also looked like they originated overseas because proxy and VPN services were used. So imagine if you kept getting multiple notifications saying that someone was trying to get into your account. How would you feel? Worry? Bingo. Cue Lamb and Serrano. On August 18th, they called the victim pretending to be from Google's support team, saying that there had been an attempt to hack his account and they needed to shut it down. They convinced the victim to divulge his account's security codes. Lamb then allegedly accessed the victim's OneDrive and Gmail, where he found the victim's Gemini crypto records. There are screenshots of conversations between Lamb and Serrano as evidence. And then, to make it more believable, Lamb and Serrano then upped the ante, calling the victim, and this time, pretending to be from Gemini's security team. They convinced him that his accounts had been compromised and then got him to transfer about US $3 million worth of crypto into a wallet controlled by Lamb. They then got the victim to download a remote desktop connection program for security. He agreed, and this gave Lamb and Serrano real-time access to his computer. All this time, remember, they're still on the phone call. Serrano allegedly manipulated him into opening various files on his computer, including those with private keys to his Bitcoin. While Serrano was on call with the victim, Lamb used the access keys to steal more than 4,100 Bitcoin, worth more than $230 million at the time. These screen recordings that track how they did it step by step using a mirror program. And you can see Lamb's and Hathaway's and Serrano's Versace God display names here. So what did they do next? Well, Lamb and Serrano allegedly laundered the funds through various mixers and exchanges using peel chains and digital wallets. And then the opulent spending spree. Travel, nightclubs, swanky cars, jewelry, watches, designer handbags, and ritzy rental homes. Lamb bought 31 luxury cars, including custom Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Porsches. Some were a cool US $3 million. 22 of these are still. One had a monthly rent of $68,000 US. Lamb also went big at nightclubs in Miami and LA, burning through about $500,000 US each time. But the fun didn't last long, and their extravagance were short-lived. On September 18th, exactly a month after the theft, Serrano was arrested at Los Angeles Airport after he came back from the Maldives with his girlfriend. She tipped off Lamb, who immediately deleted his Telegram account. On the same day, Lamb was nabbed by police in Miami. According to the Miami Herald, the FBI raided this posh waterfront home, said to be a celeb favorite Airbnb rental. And at another house, they seized cars and watches. Lamb was charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering in a U.S. district court in Florida on September 19th. On November 14th, he appeared before a judge in Washington, D.C. for a pretrial hearing to discuss the disclosure of evidence. That's where he requested a speedy trial, which means that the trial cannot be delayed indefinitely. His attorney, Scott Armstrong, told us, Mr. Lamb is 20 years old and unfortunately caught up in a very complicated case. We will vigorously defend him. Lamb is currently in remand in Virginia, and he'll return to court on January 9th next year for another pretrial hearing. For each offense, he faces up to 20 years in jail, and he could be fined up to $250,000 US, or up to twice his gains from the scams. Simultaneously, in the quaint town of Mississauga, Canada, a coding enthusiast named David Pecora delved into the world of Xbox hacking, creating mod lobbies and offering game-altering services for profit. Collaborating with hackers globally, Pecora engaged in high-profile breaches, accessing confidential data from Epic Games and the U.S. Army, leading to FBI investigations and legal charges. It all started long before the launch of the Xbox in 1995. At the age of just 3, David Pecora was mastering first-person shooter games on his parents' computer. It was then he fell in love with games, and with that love came a fascination for the idea of control he achieved. He lived with his family in Mississauga, a town in Ontario, Canada. In elementary school, he took coding lessons and was seen as a natural coder. His interest in coding only increased from that point on. It got to a point where he was on a family trip to a town in Poland. In the town, there was Wi-Fi, so he started learning Visual Basic. The experience of learning without internet access sparked his interest in coding even more. By the time he returned, he had become completely hooked on coding. When David finally dove into the realm of coding, his parents bought him his first Xbox, on which Pecora spent countless hours playing his favorite Halo 3. Over time, he wanted to learn more about the console and found a group of hackers modifying Xbox, bringing the console to their desired state. He met 18-year-old hacker Anthony Clark on a hacker site. The two of them were working on a hacking program that would let David add special abilities to the main character in Halo 3. After Pecora got his developer kit, he spent several hours each day hacking Halo 3. David's school performance gradually dropped, but developer kit coding was his main and only source of knowledge. Pecora and Clark became close, discussing music, cars, TV almost daily, and other teenage topics. Hackers intercept communication between the processor RAM and flash memory chip by reverse engineering the console. Bruce Schneier, a security expert, called the finding kindergarten security. The Xbox could run Linux, homebrew programs, stream music, and imitate other gaming systems like Nintendo by having Microsoft leave the decryption key for starting the machine in an open memory spot. All that was needed was to reflash the device. David started polishing his beloved Halo as soon as he discovered that this was possible. David learned how to change the game's mechanics, to add digital water to landscapes and turn blue sky into rain by interacting with hacker groups on IRC. The Xbox 360 stayed nearly invulnerable until late 2009, when security researchers finally found the weakness. By connecting a mod chip to a secret set of pins on the motherboard used for quality control, they managed to disable the 360's security. The hack became known as JTAG, short for the Joint Test Action Group, an industry group that suggested adding such context to all printed circuit boards in the mid-1980s. As news of the vulnerability spread, Xbox 360 owners hurried to modify their consoles to provide services that others didn't have. The market formed overnight. With 23 million members on Xbox Live, multiplayer gaming had turned much more competitive, and a crowd of gamers, whom Pecora called spoiled kids with their parents' credit cards, were willing to go to extreme lengths to humiliate their opponents. For Pecora and Clark, there was a chance to earn money. They hacked the Call of Duty military shooter series to create what they called mod lobbies, places on Xbox Live where Call of Duty players could join altered reality games. With rates up to $100 for half an hour, players with JTAG consoles took part in death matches with superpowers. They could fly, walk on walls, run at lightning speed, or shoot bullets that never missed their mark. For an extra $50 to $150, Pecora and Clark offered infections. These were abilities that stayed with characters even after joining unblocked games. Pecora initially did not want to sell infections. He knew that customers with such a supercharged system would defeat their unfortunate opponents. The situation disgusted him as being against the spirit of the games. However, on good days, the money would reach around $8,000. There were so many customers that he and Clark had to hire workers to deal with the chaos. In the excitement of business, Pecora forgot all about his commitment to fairness. Another small step down. Microsoft tried to suppress Call of Duty cheats by launching an automated JTAG console detection system followed by a ban. But Pecora reversed Microsoft's system and found a way to bypass it. He wrote a program that intercepted Xbox Live security requests and sent them to the console area, where they were filled with false data, passing off the hacked console as certified. Pecora enjoyed the rewards of his success. He still lived with his parents, but paid his own tuition when he enrolled at the University of Toronto in the fall of 2010. He and his girlfriend dined at fancy restaurants every night and stayed in $400 a night hotels while going to Canadian metal shows. He got his sense of joy and strength not from money or the envy of his peers, but from the fact that a mega-popular $60 million blockbuster game behaved the way he wanted. Pecora knew that his business was not fully legal. Many copyrights were violated, but he interpreted the lack of significant attacks from Microsoft or Call of Duty developer Activision as a sign that the companies were willing to tolerate it, just as Bungie tolerated his antics in Halo. An American friend going by the name Game Freak and an Australian hacker called Dylan, then 14 years old, succeeded in 2010 by getting a list of passwords for the public forums run by Epic Games. Dylan discovered the password of an employee of Epic Games' IT department's personal account. Now that the two hackers were inside the Epic network, they needed more help. Dylan, who knew David from the forums, asked David's help in extracting Halo cards from the PartnerNet network, which is partially open, and breaking into the secure closed network that holds the company's sensitive information. Even though these activities are obviously more illegal, David's curiosity won out, and he decided to help Dylan as long as he follows some simple rules, including not using credit card information or revealing private info about Epic customers. Due to the huge amount of material they uncovered, they brought in another hacker from New Jersey, Sonadota Sonic, who downloaded a copy of Gears of War 3 and a ton of confidential data regarding video games made by Epic Games, which he then sent to David. David sent his distributor, Justin May, the game, among other contacts. A copy of the game appeared on the forums as a torrent in a matter of days. Following reports of the Gears of War 3 leak, the FBI launched an inquiry, and through reviewing emails from Epic Games, the FBI found out about a hacking group. The company didn't seem to be trying to stop the hackers, though, since the FBI was unable to locate the hackers, and the company couldn't seem to figure out how the hacker group gained access. As a result, the inquiry eventually came to a close. A link between Zombie Studios and a U.S. Army computer was discovered by a hacking group of the AH-64D Apache helicopter on the server, which the Zombie Studio was working on under a Pentagon contract. Additionally, they were able to obtain documents for an early Durango version of the Xbox One, the next-generation console from Microsoft servers. Although they did not sell the documents to a rival company of Microsoft, they were able to find buyers for their $5,000 copies of the Durango console by assembling and selling it using store-bought parts. A complaint and allegations circulated among the group that the FBI had seized the console and was searching for hackers due to one of the Durangos never showing up at the customer's place. Then Wheeler placed an eBay offer for the fake Xbox system, motivated by his ambition to become the world's most famous Xbox hacker. Before eBay stopped the sale and declared it fraudulent, the big bid was $20,000. Pecora cut ties with Wheeler because he was so angry that he was generating a lot of media attention. The group became more anxious as a result of numerous members going missing over the next several weeks. Reports that the FBI was searching for them and fears that there was an informer among them. David is focusing on his Xbox cheat service Horizon. Their differences over their Call of Duty services led to their split. After that, Clark started to sell virtual money for FIFA on the underground market. Wheeler continued to work alone even after he got involved in the eBay auction. The FBI raided Santa de Neshawatz, New Jersey residence at the end of 2012. He went crazy trying to hire a hitman to kill the judge who signed the warrant after posting it online. U.S. federal prosecutors launched a case against the hacking group in the wake of the 2011 Gears of War breach. Because of Wheeler's risky behavior, they had to move quickly. In February 2013, they raided Wheeler's Perth home and took all of his hard drives and equipment, but they did not make an arrest. Edward McAndrew charged Pecora, Nashawat, and LaRue with wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to steal trade secrets in 2013. The charges were sealed. The evidence used in the case came from an informant known only as Person A. Many sources identify Person A as Justin May, who remained silent when asked if he was an insider.